So in this presentation, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to value. First, can we agree what value means? All these things are valuable, so conceptually we can take value to be some measure of goodness. So what do we mean by value? Well, there are quite a number of different ways of perceiving value. You can talk about utility, which is the satisfaction derived by the customer when they consume an offer, the economic worth to the firm created when somebody buys what it is the firm sells, the perceived satisfaction, so that's the customer's assessment of that offer, the net benefit, which is, how much did I pay, what did I expect, what was the outlay, the means end, which is the perceived attributes which meet a customer requirement, or the experience. It's not the object that you buy, that actually the use that you get out of it, how useful, how valuable it was for you. There's lots of talk about value from different perspectives with many different meanings. We also may consider value across 3 different levels in which value flows. So we can think about value in society, what's valuable for society in terms of maybe taxation, in terms of governments, maybe organisations or individuals. We can look at organisations of firms, of charities, and what's valuable to them. We can talk about the individual, what's valuable for the person, their wages or their unique experience, their knowledge. And value obviously flows from individuals to organisations and society, or straight from individuals to society. So there's many different flows and levels. Commonly, value is taken as existing at the exchange of unitary outputs. You can see this splendid fellow here, that's Adam Smith, who characterised wealth creation through the export of goods in his book The Wealth of the Nations, and he spoke about value being realised when units are exchanged between parties, and it became understood that value was in exchange, value of exchangeable items. Exchanges happen in markets, so it's often thought that markets create value. Focus on manufacturing means it's often thought that units are inherently valuable, and this is what we can describe as a goods dominant logic. So goods dominant logic suggests that manufacturers produce value and logically customers destroy it. So here we have a supplier, and the supplier supplies along a value chain to, say, a producer who creates value, and the value is transferred through an exchange to the consumer. Now logically the consumer must destroy value, because otherwise why would they need to buy the thing again? So the consumer destroys value, they exchange goods and money for more thing that the producer sells, and the consumer destroys the value again. There's another way of thinking about this, and that's service dominant logic. So let's consider which is most valuable, gold or polystyrene. Well, logically you take the gold, but phenomenological experience value is the measure of how good something is when situated in use and in context. It's your experience of it. So this lady here, gold is no good to her. You would imagine polystyrene is high on her list of things she'd like. So how much value something is may be determined when we integrate it into our system and experience it. So for me, value is very much a use and context thing, and that's really where SD logic understands or takes a perspective on value. So this is a nice statement. Resources are not, they become. And this refers to tangible resource, which is frequently presented as inherently valuable, and there the focus is on the value that somebody may get at the point of exchange. So suppliers provide tangible resources, and they're often seen as static, as not having any agency. They're just providing things of resources. Individuals and their context, however, are inextricably linked, and they actually define one another, because resources are not valuable until you use them. And Edith Penrose said, it's never resources themselves that are inputs in the production processes, but only the services that resources can render. So SD logic really explores the perspective of resource and value, and I think it's a really interesting theory and treatise and a way of looking at value. So there are many different interpretations of value. It's really a central discourse of business, and I find the phenomenological experience perspective of value, which was reflected in the service dominant logic, is useful really when you're examining what a business offers and how they could do better, and particularly when you're looking at maybe business models.